So there is this massive trend going on in the medical school community that an iPad is absolutely essential for you to survive medical school. I fell a victim to this as well and ended up buying the iPad Air 2020 in 2020. So the real question is the iPad really worth the money in medical school in 2021? Let's explore this idea by using the workflow reliance concept. What's cooking sapiens? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Arham and I'm a fourth year medical student studying at the University of Oslo in Norway. So I'll be dividing this video into two major chunks. Firstly, I'll be talking about the functional analysis of iPad in medical school, and secondly, I'll be elaborating upon the workflow reliance concept. And since time is the most precious thing in the world, you'll find all the timestamps in the description box below so you guys can skip through and watch exactly the parts that you want to watch. Now, when we are talking about the functionality of iPad in medical school, we are essentially talking about the idea of taking notes and how iPad is absolutely amazing for creating or taking notes in medical school. And we also know that for a fact that there are two ways of taking notes. You can either handwrite your notes on a piece of paper, or you can take your notes or type out your notes on a laptop or on a computer. And plenty of research has also shown that how handwritten notes on paper or on an iPad are actually much more efficient, and we are more likely to remember that information that we write with our own hands. And this is because we can make arrows, we can make illustrations, we can make spider diagrams, we can make mind maps, and really highlight everything we write on paper, and hence this makes the process much more active. And research has also shown that the more active the process of learning is, the more likely we are to retain that information in our long-term memory. And that is actually one major advantage of taking handwritten notes. And we have also one more advantage of taking handwritten notes, and that is that we tend to be more selective with the information that we write whenever we are taking notes with our hands, because we are more thoughtful of the information that we note down. However, the two major disadvantages of taking handwritten notes on paper is that firstly, it consumes a lot of time and the process is quite slow, and secondly, we end up with all these immense documents and these humongous ring binders with all these papers, and we have to and it's really a hassle to go through all these notes and review them and really try and find any specific information that we're trying to find. So in a nutshell, handwritten notes are obviously good, but writing them on paper is obviously problematic. On the other hand, typing out your notes on a laptop is actually quite more efficient and much faster compared to handwritten notes. However, the downside to typing out your notes on a laptop is that the process is much more passive, and oftentimes you end up transcribing everything that the lecturer is saying, or just transcribing everything that is written in the book already. So the problem is that we can't be thoughtful and more mindful about the process of note taking, and hence it's not really that efficient. And this is exactly where the iPad comes in, as it eliminates the negative aspects associated with handwritten notes and typing out your notes, and it combines the positive aspects and the advantages of both these note-taking methods. And this is because the iPad allows you to handwrite your notes with the Apple Pencil without ending up with these humongous documents and ring binders, and at the same time you can also type out the information if you have a cover for your iPad with a keyboard. Now, having said that, we need to realize that how for the past couple of years there has been a lot of enlightenment because of YouTubers like Ali Abdaal, who have talked about that how note-taking is not really efficient, it's passive, and how active recall and spaced repetition are the way to go. And this has resulted in the fact that a lot of medical students have actually stopped taking notes in medical school, just like myself. And this is exactly where the idea of whether or not the iPad is worth it in 2021 and the idea of the workflow reliance come in. The idea of workflow reliance revolves around how much of your studying or workflow is actually dependent upon certain commodities such as the iPad. Now, if you are a massive note taker, then end this video right now, because the iPad is definitely going to be worth it for you. But however, if you are not a note taker such as myself, where I stopped taking notes last year in the third year of medical school, what exactly are you supposed to do then? Is the iPad going to be worth it if you are not taking any notes? Just as an example, let's talk about my personal workflow in medical school. So what I do is that I take questions from lectures in the app Notion, and then I hide the answer to those questions underneath the question using the toggle feature in Notion, which I find to be extremely helpful. And this makes sure that my workflow is completely dependent on the act of active recall and spaced repetition, and there is no note taking involved. Now, the only time I actually do take notes is during the exam season, where I have to do active recall. And the way I do active recall then is that I sit down with my iPad and I make spider diagrams and mind maps of everything I know about a certain topic. For example, heart diseases, right? So I'll sit down and just, try and recall everything I know about that topic before I actually check out the answers. From my perspective, from my workflow, I'm only using my iPad to make mind maps and spider diagrams during the exam season. So the question is that going to be worth it for me to invest a $200 or $300 iPad, which is like the minimum price for the cheapest iPad, just for the sake of making spider diagrams and mind maps during the exam season? That we have to, now in that case, we have to look at the price value proposition. I bought the iPad Air 2020 for around 6,000 Norwegian kroners, which is around $600, and I use my iPad for, as I mentioned, for mind maps and spider diagrams, but also for making certain animations for my YouTube videos. So for me personally, that investment was worth it because I use this for two separate purposes. However, if I was just a medical student and I was not really making YouTube videos, then I would definitely not invest 6,000 Norwegian kroners or $600 just for the sake of making spider diagrams and mind maps on my iPad. So for me, in that case, it would not have been worth it. But however, right now, I think it's worth it for me. So you need to analyze your entire situation and see for yourself whether or not your workflow is really dependent upon taking notes, or if it's dependent upon really iPad or making spider diagrams and mind maps. And if the answer is yes, or if the workflow reliance is actually above, let's say, 60 or 70%, or like, in other words, if 60 or 70% of your workflow is happening on the iPad or is going to happen on the iPad, then definitely go for the iPad in 2021. That is my conclusion based on the workflow reliance concept. That's a wrap for today, Sapiens. I hope you found the video useful, and if you did, then you might also want to check out this video, which will surely add some value to your lives. Now, before you leave, I would really appreciate you guys hitting the subscribe button, because 78% of my viewers, like you guys who are watching my videos, are not subscribed. So please hit that subscribe button for the algorithm, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Take care. Peace.